Hey, hey, this is a small intimate gathering. So let's see, it's 8:30. I guess we can wait till 8:30 and a half or something. Oh, look. Oh, look, I could recognize those jeans. I can recognize those. Oh, it's being recorded. All right, well, they started recording a little early tonight, but all right, some real life moments. Oh, wow, look at the nice people. Okay, I guess this is a good amount of nice people to start the party. So we're learning Tanya. We started, so last week we took a little Purim break, but we learned something so unusual last week. Maybe I'll just give a 1-second summary because I'm still trying to digest it. So this idea that Mordechai comes out from the king with 5 different garments. So that goes way back to the story of Yosef. Yosef and his brothers and his father and the dreams. And why didn't Yosef let his father know for 22 years? Because Yosef saw the dreams as prophecy, that Hashem wanted it to be that way, that it had to be the way it was in his dreams. And he had to arrange it. So the brothers come down to Mitzrayim and go back to Eretz Yisrael 4 times, which represents the 4 times we come out of Gullus, the Gullus of Babel and Persia and Rome and Greece. And the second one is Persia, the story of Mordechai and Esther. So that story, for Mordechai to get those 5 garments, we needed Benjamin to come down to Mitzrayim and go back up to Eretz Yisrael, that we should be released from the Persian Gullus through someone who comes from Benjamin, Mordechai. So that's kind of exciting. And Ish Yehudi, because David didn't kill Shimei, and Mordechai comes from Shimei. And then it's all so exciting that everything is all intertwined and interrelated. Who would have thought it? Okay, enough on that. I just thought I'd give that little summary. So going back to 2 weeks ago, we were learning chapters 26 and 27 of Tanya. So chapter 26, if you have your Tanya handy, because we're going to read from inside, I'm reading from my Tanya that the Rebbe gave me on his 80th birthday at 3 a.m. The Rebbe looked at me with his blue eyes and handed me this Tanya. So we're going to look in a Tanya. If you like to look in, not everybody likes to look in, but if you do, it's an option. Okay, so what we spoke about 2 weeks ago when we were talking about all this, we spoke it. So yeah, it begins with the Alter Rebbe explaining to us in very simple terms that if 2 people are wrestling, oh dear, something's wrong with my video. My video is starting to have a twitch. But I noticed that if I turn it off and on, look, the twitch went away. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's better. Okay, so now I got distracted. Okay, 2 wrestlers, which is the Yetzer Hara wrestling with the Yetzer Tov, basically. And if one is lazy, the other guy is going to win. The guy with Zerizah, the guy B'Simcha is going to win. So Simcha is the only way we can overcome the 3 bad moods. The Alter Rebbe divides all bad moods into 3 general categories. That's Atzvos, according to the Torah HaNefesh translation of Atzvos is a bad mood, which is very helpful because, if it's something romantic like depression or sadness, I could just be very poetic. But if it's a bad mood, we have to serve Hashem b'simcha. I actually read last week that a chassid should be a ball of joy. Doesn't that sound good, being a ball of joy? Don't you? We all love balls of joy. Let's invite a ball of joy for Shabbos. It's contagious, just a ball of joy. Okay, because we have to be joyful. It's one of the major signs of being a chassid. It's being a ball of joy. So the 3 bad moods. So the Alter Rebbe addresses, what we spoke about last time, is really the most difficult, it can be, bad mood, and the one that occurs most to most people. And that's a bad mood about objective suffering, financial issues, family issues, health issues. And there the Alter Rebbe, and you would think that would be the last thing the Alter Rebbe would speak about, because that's a tough one. Bad stuff looks like bad stuff. And there the Alter Rebbe says, Gamzu Latova, that it goes immediately to Kabbalah, that it's coming from Alma Discasia, the hidden worlds where Hashem is close. And if we value closeness with Hashem more than anything else, then this is the time that we can really connect. When something doesn't look good to our, no, we should all have revealed good, no, but if God forbid, there's that little tiny bit of bad that sneaks in, we should remember that that's when Hashem is close, and we want to cultivate closeness with Hashem as something very high on our priority list. We can understand why it's a lifetime goal, but very worthwhile. Okay, so the whole first thing was speaking about objective suffering. And objective suffering, this is the circumstances in someone's life. We learn in Torah Nefesh, after we learn these two chapters from Insight, I'm going to read some of my notes from Torah Nefesh, probably next week or so. But the idea that the circumstances of our life are always good, this is Emunah. They're always good, they're always what our soul needs. It's always what our soul needs, and Hashem is with us. All of those childhood traumatic experiences, Hashem was there with us, and it gave us darkness to turn into light. And that's what we read, that whole book of Torah Nefesh Psychology, Transforming Darkness into Light. And it gives us that we want to change, we want to grow, we don't want to stagnate. So we can use all of that darkness and turn it into motivation to grow and change. So that's the idea of the circumstances. And this is such an important idea, that the circumstances of someone's life are always good. We can empathize with their lack of clarity, because often it takes time to have clarity on how to deal with the circumstances of our life. So if we're speaking to a friend in the role of the therapist, then we can have empathy with the lack of clarity, but never to be taken in that the circumstances themselves aren't good. The circumstances are from Hashem. I think that was one of the most important things I learned in Torah Nefesh. It's like, it's like all hashgacha pratis. It's basic, but I guess it took me a while to knock it into my heart and soul, that the circumstances of our life are always good and from Hashem. Okay, so that was that whole category of objective suffering, financial issues, family issues, health issues, all goes into mimile de alma, worldly concerns. So that's the first bad mood. Now today we're going to start the second bad mood. If you're looking at a Tanya, so it's Perek Chaf Beis, it's page Lamed Gimel, and it's 4 lines from the bottom. It's actually starting another day's Chitas, so that's why it was a good place to stop. Okay, so ha'atzvos mimile deshmaya. So the second bad mood is for what's called heavenly reasons. So this is talking about memories of transgressions from the past. Like we'll suddenly remember some transgression, maybe we did it 17 years ago, but it comes back very clearly and we think, oh no, how could I have done that? And I'm feeling quite bad about it. Or it also works for traumatic experiences, because just like an Avera can separate us from Hashem, so also a trans, even though we could say we're not responsible for being traumatized by someone else, but the fact that it separated us from Hashem means we can do tshuva, which means getting closer to Hashem. So anything that separates us from Hashem, we can do tshuva. So let's talk about these mimila deshmaya, these heavenly concerns. Sorich lasis eitzis benafsho lapater mimenu. This is the advice we give ourselves to free ourselves from this bad mood due to sins, transgressions from the past. Ein sorich lomer b'shas avoda should sorich lavod Hashem b'simcha b'tuv levav. And we don't, of course, when we're davening and learning, there's no time to, feel bad about sins, because davening and learning has to be b'simcha. And we spoke about, we're going to get there, that we have to pick a time. We do have to do tshuva. Tshuva is very important. It adds a lot of chayas to life. But it means looking at the things that we want to do tshuva on. So that's the sadness that comes before the joy. We do have to look at those things we need to do tshuva on and do tshuva on them, but it's win-win. Okay. So b'simcha tulevav ella afilu mi shehu bal asakim. Now we're turning. So even though someone who's a business person, b'derech eretz, and involved in their worldly pursuits. So we're not talking about davening and learning. Chapter 28, the next chapter, it speaks about what happens if it happens during davening and learning. This is talking about what happens just as we're going through our life. Suddenly we remember some transgression we did. Im nofel lo eitza v'daiga mimile deshmaya b'shas asakav. So if it occurs to us, this bad mood due to heavenly concerns during the regular part of the day, b'yedua shehu tachbulas hayetzer kadei lahapilu achar kach l'taivas chas v'shalom kanoda. Be assured that it's the machinations of the Yetzer Hara in order to throw us afterwards into taivas, into desires, chas v'shalom, as is known. So what is it saying here? It's really, it's till then, till the Alter Rebbe taught this, it was thought that first of all, if you're a frum person, you should never really have a complete smile on your face. You have to look a little disgruntled because it's the Geula Az Yamale. When Mashiach comes, then we'll be happy. But now you should have you can see these pictures from before the Baal Shem Tov of like Simchas Torah, and they're carrying out the Torahs. Look very depressed. No one told them that Simcha, that we have to serve Hashem b'Simcha. Okay, so the takbulas, the machinations of the Yetzer Hara, is to throw us into depression about past sins. So, because we'll say, so I'm such a wreck, it doesn't matter anymore. I may as well give into my tithas. For each person, it's different, but it's not it doesn't work out well. L'chaim to not doing that. Yum, yum. Okay. And I've seen it happen, like I had a friend who was from Crown Heights who was doing tshuva and learning. She came to Israel to learn, and her mother was pressuring her to come back and get married. But it's not really something someone can really control by themselves. Like there's a certain other person involved. And I understood that if her mother was really pressuring her, get married, get married, get married, get married, why aren't you married? She would get depressed. And if she got depressed, it wouldn't be good, because depression leads to taivas, giving into desires. Okay, so we understand that. She'im lokain me'ayin ba'alo atzvus amitis machmas avas Hashem o yuraso be'emtza asakav. Because if this wasn't the case, that it's coming from the Yetzer Hara, why is there coming a bad mood because of love of Hashem or fear of Hashem in the middle of our day? So just to this idea, guilt over sin comes from the same place as the sin itself, the Yetzer Hara. Therefore, guilt doesn't stop you from doing it. Guilt is not a good thing, according to Hasidus. We spoke about there's good charata and bad charata. Bad charata is just going on and on. How did I do that? Why did I do that? That can go on for many decades, but it's boring, it's repetitive. The other alternative, so guilt, there's good charata that leads to tshuva. So guilt in itself is not a good thing. Guilt is it just doesn't go anywhere. It's like bad charata. We want good charata that leads to tshuva. But the Yetzer Hara is very happy to make us miserable by having memories of past sins. So this is what's going on here. V'hine bein shenafla lo ha'atzvus b'shas havoda b'talmud Torah b'tefillah, or whether this bad mood comes to us when we're davening or when we're learning, or ben shenafla lo shelo b'shas havoda, or whether this bad mood comes to us not, during the regular part of the day. Zos Yasim al Libo. This is our advice. This is the advice the Alter Rebbe is giving us. Ki ein hazman groma ke'es la'atzvus amitis. This is not the right time, spontaneously. This is not the right time for true anxiety. Afilu l'daigas avonas chamorim chas v'shalom. Even big sins. We can think, oh, this is really a big sin. I should really spend some time contemplating this big sin. No, never spontaneously. This is what the Alter Rebbe is saying. Never spontaneous. Rak l'zos suri kvias eating. For this, we need special times. B'shas hakosher. And we need the special time for this. B'yeshuv hadas. In other words, yeshuv hadas means with a calm mind. In other words, this isn't like spontaneous, emotional kind of experience. This is Tuesday at 3, whatever time we pick. Remember, we pick the time. It could be Erev Yom Kippur, Erev Rosh Chodesh, Thursday night before Shabbos, any night before going to sleep. Tuesday at 3, we pick the time. The thing is that we have to do tshuva. We do have to make a heshbon hanefesh, but never spontaneously. Spontaneously, it's the Yetzer Hara just coming to freak us out, and we don't need any of that. Okay. So we said bezman groma ke'es la'atzvus amitis afilu. Okay, so even those big sins. Rak l'zos suri kvias eating v'shas hakosher v'yeshuv hadas lehisbonan v'gedulis Hashem asher chatalo. So how we do this tshuva is we meditate on the greatness of Hashem, that we transgressed His will, and the meditation on the greatness of Hashem doesn't have to be long. One of the things I noticed when we were learning together, transforming darkness into light. So it starts with hachna'ah, submission, hachna'ah. And the example is giving of anxiety. What do you do with anxiety? So what is the first thing? The first thing is to meditate on the greatness of God. So meditating on the greatness of God is step 1. It has to be something we can do even for 30 seconds. And it's given in Tanya. Meditation on the greatness of God. Hashem surrounds all worlds. Hashem fills all worlds. Hashem loves us. Hashem produces the circumstances of our life and is there for us and with us. So that was a meditation on the greatness of Hashem. It could even be shorter, that Hashem fills all worlds and surrounds all worlds. But we have to, it's like we can't skip that step. We have to be able to meditate. And the longer we do it, because the next step, when we were learning that book, the next step, the Havdalah of Hachna'ah, step 2, is meditating longer on the greatness of God. So meditating on the greatness of God is something that really needs to be part of our lives, even if it's in very short 15-second bursts. But it's the way to begin tshuva. Meditate on the greatness of God, that we transgressed against His will. And then our heart will be broken with a true bitterness. Remember, we spoke about bitterness has a chayas, has a life to it. Depression has no life to it. I'm bitter. I want to change. I want to grow. I don't want to be the same thing. Bitterness can be used for changing in good ways. That's the merirus amitis, the true bitterness. And the right time for this is said in another place. And again, so this suggests at times, I don't think waiting till Erev Yom Kippur, that seems like too far away. Erev Rosh Chodesh, okay. Erev Shabbos, Thursday night, okay. Every night. I suppose every moment might be good for tshuva, but that's quite a madrega. But at any rate, Tuesday at 3, we have to pick a time, whatever it is, to do a heshbon hanefesh, especially on a thought level, because I'm sure we all could find thoughts that we know Hashem is not getting nachas from these thoughts. And so what to do with these thoughts? We have to be able, so thought control, of course, is very important. Okay, mavur b'makam acher. B'sham nisber gam kein ki miyad. This is very important. So that immediately, achar shanishbar libo be'itim kavuim hahem. Immediately after we've broken our heart at these set times, azai yasir ha'etzav malibo legamre. Then this bad mood has to leave our heart completely. Has to leave our heart completely. One second. Kimiyat acher. Azayasir ha'etz melibo lagamre v'yamin amuna shalema ki Hashem ha'avir chataso v'rav lisloa. We have to believe that when we do tshuva, Hashem removes the transgression and forgives us. Like, this is basic Yiddishkeit. We haven't gotten that down, write that down in your notes and think about it, that when we do tshuva, Hashem forgives us. It's so beautiful. We can learn from him to be forgiving. It's very healthy, of course, to be forgiving. V'zuhi hasimcha hamitis b'Hashem haba acher ha'etzav kanal. And this is the true joy in Hashem that comes after this properly used bad mood of doing it to, I have to shape up. Let's look at this. It's time for me to shape up. And I'm feeling joyful. I'm not going to do that anymore. I have a choice. I'm not going to follow that line of thought. I can catch it. I don't have to follow it. Because again, thought management is the key to mental health. It's the key to meditation. Now, I remember long ago, when I first started to meditate, before I knew about thought management, it was very difficult, because thought management should really be taught like from first grade. It's like so important for mental health. Without thought management, we can drive ourselves crazy. But we won't give that assignment now, though I'm sure we would do very well if I said you have 2 minutes to drive yourself crazy. If that was the assignment, we could do it. Okay, so, but we want to stay sane. Okay, so that was the story of chapter 26. The Alter Rebbe presents that we have to be besimcha to beat the Yetzer Hara, and then he gives 3 bad moods that could keep us from being besimcha. So we did 2 of the 3 bad moods, and the third one is really in here in chapter 27 and also in chapter 28. But it's all the same. It's all the 3rd bad mood, which we're about to begin to look at. Perek Chav Zayin. What if our bad mood is not because we're worried about past sins? Ela mehi horim ra'im b'taivas ra'o shanoflos b'makshavto. But it's because of bad thoughts and bad desires that have occurred in our thoughts. So it's now. The other 2 might be speaking about the past, but now we're talking about thoughts that arise now in our mind, thoughts that arise in the teeny tiny now. We're talking about the present. Okay. Hine im noflo slo shelo b'shasavot. If they're cut to us, not when we're davening and learning, because that's going to be the next chapter. Ela be'es asko ba'askov. But if we're just doing our daily activities, v'derech eretz, Okahai Gavna, things, we're not davening and learning, the other stuff that we do during the day. Adarabba, Yeshlo Lismoach Bechelko. We should be happy that this thought occurred. Now, there's a revolutionary idea. I just had some terrible thought. I can't believe it. I'm in shock. The Alter Rebbe says, hold on. You should be happy. Let's find out why. Sha'af shenoflo slo makshav. So even though this thought occurred this occurred in our thought, hu mesiach daito mehen. We removed it from our consciousness. L'kiyama shenemar v'lo sasaru acharei levavchem v'acharei nechem asher atem zonim achareihem. To fulfill what it says, we should not follow after our heart and our eyes to prostitute ourselves after them. So this is one of the 6 constant mitzvahs. This is one of the 6 constant mitzvahs that we have learned about not too long ago. It's the one behind us in that cube of 6 sides. So let's see, what is it saying? Let's go over this slowly. There is the term masiach daito. Masiach is mem samach yud ches. It means to remove it from your mind. Now, what does Chassidus say if it's obsessive? What if it's an obsessive thought? I remove it from my mind, and it's the 3rd sentence that comes back. I remove it from my mind, it comes back, and it's driving me crazy. I'm not successful in removing it from my mind. So here, Hasidus teaches that the word Yesiach, spelled Mem Samach Yud Ches, if we replace the sin, the Samach with the sin, it's still pronounced the same, but sin Ches means to speak about something, like a sicha. So it means to talk to a friend about it, talk to a therapist, talk to mashvi, even speaking to a good friend, a trusted friend. If we are having an obsessive thought that's coming back every three thoughts, speak to a trusted friend. And look, the friend has the friend has not fainted. They're not in shock. They're still our friend. It calms us down. We see like it's not, we just, okay, we don't have to be so obsessed about it. It's just part of life. So the idea is choice 1, remove it from your mind. Choice 2, speak to a friend. Never choice 3, drive ourselves crazy, because we can do that, especially with obsessive thoughts. So we need that good friend. Don't be shy. Call that good friend and say, I need to speak with you. Okay. I want everyone to try that out and report. But a lot of things is just Narishkeit and we can remove from our mind. Like, for example, my inner Yenta is very curious about things. My inner Yenta wants to know who's doing what with whom. It feels it needs to know that. So I don't have to give in to my inner Yenta. My inner Yenta doesn't have to make my decisions in life. I can remove those thoughts because I've learned from experience. I'm not happier when I found out who did what with whom did not make me happier. It's not a good direction to go in. So this is the idea. We have to choose which thoughts to follow. And this pasuk, Lo Sasaru, it comes from Chumash. It's in the 3rd paragraph of the Shema. We say it every day. Zonim is a very strong word. We shouldn't follow after our heart and eyes to prostitute ourselves after. We shouldn't become zonas. It's very heavy. Like the Chumash, Hashem is using very strong language because we can and we have and we don't want to anymore. So we're not going to sasaru. We're not going to go after those thoughts. We're going to all make a l'chaim and encourage each other, empower each other. We're going to be more on top of which thoughts we follow. L'chaim, l'chaim. Yes. Excellent. Okay, now that we've got that down, could continue. Be'ein hakasav medaber but tzadikim likram zonim chas v'shalom. This pasuk is not talking about tzadikim to call them zonim chas v'shalom, ela be'beinanim kiyot sebo. But it's talking about beinanim and other people like us. So again, to remember, the Alter Rebbe calls this book Sefer Shel Beinanim. We call it Tanya, but when the Alter Rebbe, let's say, is referring to it in Torah or Likutei Torah, the Alter Rebbe always calls it Sefer Shel Beinanim. And when we take that Ulpan and we learn Diktuk, Beinanim means the present tense. The present tense, in the moment, a thought is arising in our mind, and that's the Beinani is dealing with that thought in the present. The Beinani deals with what's happening in the little teeny tiny now, dealing with the thought that comes up in the now. This is the abode of the Beinani. This is basically what it boils down to. Because the action level, okay, we have a little bit more control over. The speech level, I don't have to say. But the thought level is a lifetime. It's a lifetime experience to not sasaru after those thoughts. People like us, shenofli, so we're talking about beinanim kayotzebo, shenoflim lo hihore niuf umakshavto b'makshavto bein behiter v'chule. So the beinani like us, we can have erotic thoughts, whether permitted, ... The Alter Rebbe doesn't want to say the negative, whether he doesn't want to accuse us of having forbidden erotic thoughts. He's saying niuf, and niuf is really adultery, but it can be translated as erotic thoughts. So we have to, so whether there falls, when there falls into our mind, and any thought, we learned on the very first page of Tanya, like even if all your best friends say that you're a tzaddik, consider yourself Russia, like a Russia. What does that mean, like a Russia? That means a Beinani. How is a Beinani like a Russia? because any thought can enter our minds. Any thought imaginable by any person anywhere in the world can enter our mind. So this business of thought management is a lifetime activity. Okay. And when we remove it from our mind, we have fulfilled this mitzvah of lo sasaru, va'omru razal, yeshav, v'lo aver avera, no snim lo schar, ki'ilu ose mitzvah. When we just sit still and don't do an avera, we are given a reward as if we did a mitzvah. So it's a big thing. There's a reward in thought management. It seems obvious, right? We don't want to prostitute ourselves after our thoughts. And there's a reward in not following the thought. So we should all be blessed, l'chaim, l'chaim, to be successful in our thought management. Or at least more and more successful, because it's, again, a lifetime activity. The alkain sorich lismoach b'kiyam halav kamo b'kiyam mitzvahs asay mamish. And therefore we should be happy in fulfilling this commandment, just like we would in a mitzvahs asay, in a positive mitzvah mamish. So that's what the Alter Rebbe is saying here, that who would have thought it? It's like a revolutionary idea. It's saying, oh, goody, I just had a horrible, terrible thought, and I'm not following it. And this is so exciting. There's a reward for this. I'm getting close to Hashem. I'm giving Hashem nachas. This is great. So we should be real. Don't be shocked. So the Alter Rebbe is saying, don't be shocked. We should be very happy we have this thought. I mean, there's so many things that are revolutionary in terms of Hasidus. And I mean, just the idea that we're supposed to be happy is a revolutionary idea. It's just an incredible thing. That was the revolution of the Baal Shem Tov. They initially, when the people, the Hasidim, when they were being put down by those miserable, frowning people, they were called the Freilachim, the happy ones, because they felt that was, they said calling somebody happy was a put down in those days by the average frum person. But thank God we're connected with the Baal Shem Tov, and we know that to defeat the Yetzer Hara, we have to be b'simcha. And the Alter Rebbe is really encouraging our being b'simcha. Okay, so let's do a little bit more. We have a few more minutes, do a little bit more. So now we're on the top of Lamed Daled for anyone who likes to look into a real Tanya. Ba'adarabba, ha'atzvos hi megasus haruach. Even more, this depression about these thoughts, this bad mood about this thought occurring in my mind, actually is because of pride. She'enu makir makomo, because this person doesn't recognize his place. V'al ken yara levavo al she'enu b'medrega tzadik, and therefore he's depressed. He's depressed that he's not a tzadik. Shalit tzadikim b'vadei ein naflu lahem hihore shtus ka'ela, because a tzaddik surely doesn't have the kind. Oops, there's that jumping up and down. Because a tzaddik certainly doesn't have thoughts like this. By the way, if anyone happens to be a computer maven and can suggest something, send me a private message. You know what I could do to not have that jumping up and down sometime. I'd be happy to hear, but okay, it's not so hard to fix, so I won't complain too much about it. Okay, so what is it saying? Why are we in shock? Why are we feeling bad about having some negative thought? Because it hurts our pride, because I had thought maybe I was a tzaddik, and now I had this thought, and I have to find out the terrible truth of Alavaya Bainani, even for a moment. Okay. Okay, v'adarabba, she'enu makir makomo v'al, and therefore it's bad in his heart that he's not in the madrega of a tzaddik, because tzaddikim b'vadei they don't have these kind of thoughts. Ki ilu hayu makir makomo, and if we recognized our place, shehu rachok ma'od me madrega tzaddik, we're not tzaddikim. I mean, I know this could be shocking news for some people, but not really, I mean, because we know ourselves. It's our friends who think, it's all our friends who think we're tzaddikim, but they don't know the thoughts we're having in our mind. They just, we made them a cup of tea. They just think we're fantastic. But, it's okay. So we're actually, we know we're far from the Madrega but Tzaddik. And here's the famous line. V'alavai hayabeinani v'lo Russia kol yamav afilu sha'a achas. And alavai, to be a Beinani and not a Russia, all of our days, even for a moment. Okay. So this is a very important line here. Alavai, to be a Beinani and not a Russia, even for a moment. So alavai, to be a Beinani, means for a moment, we can be a Beinani for a moment. There's moments that we're not doing anything wrong. We're even not following the thought. We can be a Beinani for a moment. And maybe we could be a Beinani for another moment, a second moment. It could be that we could be a Beinani for longer, and not a Russia for a moment. So we have to take it moment by moment. It's a great thing. We should celebrate these moments. Alavai, to be a Beinani for a moment. And we are this, like now. Look how good we're being now. We're learning Torah nicely, together, calmly. This is it. At this moment, we are Beinani. It's so exciting to be a Beinani and not a Russia, even for a moment. This is a big moment. Okay. So, below Russia, Kol Yama, all our life, Harezos hi midos ha-Beinani, ba'avodasam, and this is the measure of the Beinani and their avoda, likvosh hayetzer, to conquer the Yetzer Hara, v'hichor ha'ola mehalev l'moyach, and the thoughts that arise from our heart to our mind, ulasiach daito legamre mimeno, and to be able to remove them completely from our mind, remember, or at least call that best friend, v'lidichocha b'shtei yodayim kanal, and to push it away with two hands, as we spoke. And again, let's talk. I remember learning in 770 with Y.Y. Jacobson about this pushing with two hands. Why does it say to push with two hands? Because if we don't push with two hands, one hand is pushing and the other hand is saying, come back, thought. That was an interesting thought. Let's think that thought again. So it has to be with two hands, pushing the thought away with two hands. And this is what it boils down to. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? This is what it boils down to. The avoda of the Beinani is pushing thoughts away with two hands, deciding what thoughts we want to think. So let's do a quick review here. Okay, so there's three bad moods. First bad mood is objective suffering, otherwise known as the circumstances of our life. They can sometimes be hard, and thank God if they're not hard at this moment. We have memories of difficult, everyone, we have memories of difficult circumstances, traumatic circumstances. Whatever it is, Hashem is close then, and that's when we can really develop a closeness with Hashem. And to know that the circumstances of our life are always good, even if we don't see it. And when we're helping people to not, we can empathize with their lack of clarity, but we should never get into the mistaken notion that the circumstances themselves are bad. These are the circumstances the soul needs to grow, to turn darkness into light. But lack of clarity is quite painful. So we can certainly empathize and we can help give people clarity. Learning these two chapters with people is really giving people a lot of tools in what to do. And then there's the sins from the past that come up, and the sins from the past, Tuesday at 3. We want to do tshuva, we want to do a heshbon hanefesh, never spontaneously. And this third thing is the one that's in the present, the one most related to the avoda of the Beinani. And again, Beinani in Hebrew grammar means present, that thoughts will arise in our minds. Thoughts will, any thought, but any thought, like that's why we're not supposed to be shocked when a thought arises in our mind, because any thought can arise in our mind. And we want to give Hashem nachas. We want Hashem to be able to, Hashem wants a dira b'taktanim, we want to welcome him into our mind, even for a moment. Because it says, "It alavai," to be a Beinoni, even for a moment. We have a moment we can invite Hashem into our minds to rest. The Shekhinah should rest in our minds. Yes, let's celebrate that moment. And if we can do it one moment, we might get a second moment. Okay, so that's our Tanya for today. I really want to thank everyone for joining. L'chaim, l'chaim. It's wonderful learning this together. And let's take our picture, our get well picture for Rabbi Yitzhak, if everyone could put on their cameras. I like to see the people too. For me, it's also very nice to see the people. Let's see who 613 is. Come on, Rachel, Rochelle, Diane, Leah. Come on, V. Come on, everybody. Let's for Rabbi Yitzhak, that get well picture. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, modern technology. So lots of love. Thank you all so much. It's so good doing this together. Looking forward to seeing you all next week. Have a wonderful week. Shalom, shalom. Oh, next class is happening soon. Bye-bye.